Hello, I'm James Ezimoha and you're watching A News. Let's see your headlines. A pause in fighting on the streets of Beirut is not being met with relief, but with growing questions over what comes next. Norway moves to tighten children's social media access. And energy flows take center stage in Baku talks. A fragile ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon appears set to hold for now, following fresh talks in Washington aimed at preventing further escalation. But even as the pause is extended, questions remain over how long it can last, with Hezbollah still a key factor on the ground.
US President Donald Trump said Israel and Lebanon have agreed to extend a ceasefire between Israel and the Hezbollah militant group by 3 weeks after talks at the White House on Thursday.
We had a great meeting with the very high officials of Lebanon and very high officials of Israel, and we think that the president of Lebanon and the prime minister of Israel over the next couple of weeks will be coming here. They've agreed to an additional 3 weeks of, no firing, ceasefire, no more firing. Let's see. We hope that happens. It's not going to happen between them, but they do have Hezbollah to think about.
His announcement came during a second round of US-facilitated talks in the Oval Office, with Israel's ambassador to Washington, Yehiel Leiter, and Lebanon's ambassador to the US, Nada Hamader Moawad. The ceasefire has led to a significant drop in violence. The announcement came a day after Israeli strikes killed at least 5 people, including a journalist. Hezbollah, which is not controlled by the Lebanese armed forces, has not immediately commented on the ceasefire. Meanwhile, moments after the ceasefire was announced, Israel struck a Hezbollah missile launcher. The Israeli army released footage showing what it said was strikes on rocket launchers at a Hezbollah military site in southern Lebanon.
On the streets of Beirut, a pause in fighting is not being met with relief, but with questions over what comes next. Here's more.
Residents in Beirut are voicing deep skepticism about the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon after US President Donald Trump announced a 3-week extension to the agreement. While Washington presents the move as part of wider stabilization efforts, many on the ground question whether a short-term truce can bring real change.
Trump in the United States is saying, "We have given you 3 weeks." What's this? This is not a ceasefire. This is blackmail. More than blackmail, it is a political blackmail to our presidency and the Prime Minister's office.
He also pointed to recent violence, including reported killings in southern Lebanon and the death of a journalist, questioning whether such incidents are consistent with a ceasefire. Others describe a deeper sense of fatigue, pointing to decades of recurring conflict that continue to shape daily life.
We want this ceasefire to be permanent, not just a week or 3 weeks. We wish that we could have a ceasefire all the time and that we could end this story. We are people who are tired. More than 50 years we keep on repeating the same cycle.
The extension, brokered in Washington, is part of broader efforts to ease regional tensions, including issues linked to Iran and security in the Strait of Hormuz.
Tensions are rising in the Strait of Hormuz, where Washington is signaling tighter control over this vital energy route to increase pressure on Tehran. But a string of incidents at sea suggests the situation remains volatile as both sides continue to test the limits.
US President Donald Trump has reiterated claims that Washington has total control over the Strait of Hormuz as tensions with Iran continue to escalate. Speaking on Thursday, Trump said the United States was enforcing an airtight blockade and could reopen the strait at its discretion, but added he was deliberately keeping it closed to increase pressure on Tehran. He also said Washington would not use nuclear weapons against Iran.
Why would I use a nuclear weapon when we've totally, in a very conventional way, decimated them without it? No, I wouldn't use it. A nuclear weapon should never be allowed to be used by anybody.
At the same time, incidents at sea underscore ongoing challenges on both sides. Iranian forces have seized 2 commercial vessels using fast boats, highlighting their continued operational presence. Meanwhile, US forces boarded a stateless tanker, the Majestic X, in the Indian Ocean, which the Pentagon said was carrying Iranian oil. The situation has led to parallel efforts to restrict maritime traffic, keeping oil prices near $100 a barrel and raising supply concerns. Despite US claims that Iran's conventional forces have been weakened, analysts say it still retains fast boats, drones and mines capable of disrupting shipping. The Strait of Hormuz remains a vital route for global energy flows, and continued disruptions carry broader economic risks. Diplomatic efforts have yet to yield a breakthrough, with both sides maintaining pressure while signalling openness to negotiations.
Tehran is emphasizing political cohesion as pressure builds around its foreign policy and security posture. The message from senior officials is aimed both at domestic audiences and outside powers watching the stalled diplomatic track with Washington.
Iran's leadership is presenting a united front, rejecting claims of internal divisions and stressing national unity at a time of rising tensions with the United States and Israel. The messaging comes as the talks between Tehran and Washington remain stalled. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, in a post on X, repeated themes from his Nowruz message, warning that what he described as hostile media campaigns are trying to influence the hearts and minds of the public and weaken unity. At the same time, the heads of Iran's 3 branches of government, the presidency, parliament, and judiciary, issued a joint statement dismissing suggestions of political differences. According to official media, they said there are no hardliners or moderates in Iran, describing the country as unified under a single path. They also warned that any external aggression would be met with a response. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi also rejected reports of divisions, saying diplomacy and military strategy are working together and that the country remains unified. Meanwhile, Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghai criticized remarks by US officials accusing Washington of encouraging violence. His condemnation came after US President Donald Trump retweeted and liked a post by an American commentator suggesting the assassination of Iranian officials opposed to a deal between Tehran and Washington. Turaj Shiralilu, Tehran, Foreign News.
Pope Leo has condemned violence in Iran and called for an end to civilian deaths, as well as renewed efforts toward peace and dialogue. Speaking to journalists aboard his flight back to Rome, he warned that escalating tensions between Iran and the United States are deepening both humanitarian and economic strain.
I condemn all actions that are unjust. I condemn the taking of people's lives. I condemn capital punishment. I believe that human life is to be respected and that all people from conception to natural birth, their lives should be respected and protected. So when a regime, when a country takes decisions which takes away the lives of other people unjustly, then obviously that is something that should be condemned.
For decades, textile mills in India have been at the heart of the global fashion industry. However, with rising energy costs linked to the Iran conflict, industry leaders say the impact could affect fashion retailers worldwide.
Inside India's textile hub of Surat, production lines are still running, but manufacturers say they are feeling the pressure. A surge in fuel prices has pushed up the cost of polyester, a material derived from petroleum and widely used in the global clothing industry. At one of Surat's major mills, executives say the combination of higher costs and labour shortages is already disrupting output.
Two impacts: low productivity because of labour shortage and high cost of production. So due to this both scenarios, we are not able to actually meet the demands of the global's orders very fruitfully these days. This is the major impact which is happening, right?
Further up the supply chain, the strain is even more pronounced. Producers of polyester yarns say the price of key oil-based inputs has risen sharply in recent weeks, driving up overall production costs. That pressure is now filtering through to fabric manufacturers across Surat. Some have been forced to scale back operations, with machines left idle as owners try to avoid losses.
Before the war, we used to produce at least 10,000 meters of fabric per day, which has come down to 3,500 to 4,000 meters. Because if we want to produce more, we will have to purchase more raw material, and we will not be able to buy it at the present rates, as the finished product will not be sold at a profitable rate.
Industry data shows polyester prices surged in the weeks following the beginning of conflict. Government measures have provided limited relief. As a result, parts of the sector are cutting operating days, fueling concerns about wider disruption and potential shortages. For now, major global retailers are protected with advance orders, but analysts warn that buffer may not hold. Similar pressures are now emerging in Bangladesh, and with two major textile countries being impacted, there are fears consumers will eventually face a rise in prices too.
Now, Norway is moving to tighten restrictions on children's access to social media as concerns grow over the impact of online platforms on young users. Here's more on the story.
Norway plans to present a bill to Parliament by the end of the year that would ban children under 16 from using social media, with technology companies responsible for verifying users' ages. Authorities have not yet specified which platforms would be covered. Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre said the measure is intended to protect children's development, warning that childhood should not be dominated by algorithms and screens. If approved, the rules could take effect as early as next year. Access would be restricted until January 1st of the year a user turns 16, creating a uniform system across age groups. Children and Families Minister Lena Vågslid said the approach follows consultations, including with young people, and aims to prevent social divisions within school classes. The government had previously considered a lower age limit, but opted for stricter rules. The proposal comes as countries worldwide move to curb minors' use of social media. Australia has already introduced a ban on under 16s, while several European nations are pursuing tighter regulation. Turkey has approved legislation banning social media use for those under 15, extending restrictions to certain gaming platforms. Denmark is considering a similar measure, while France and Spain are working on rules to limit access or require parental consent. These steps reflect a growing international effort to regulate how children engage with digital platforms.
The UK's push to lead in AI is shifting focus away from London real estate to industrial sites, with one vital link: access to the power grid.
Across the UK, disused industrial land is being rebranded for a new purpose: hosting AI data centres. In Teesside, the Wilton International site is one example. Once tied to the declining petrochemical industry, it now offers something far more valuable: land with ready access to power and grid connections, what developers call powered land. That's become a major draw as tech giants plan billions in AI infrastructure investment. More than 100 data centre proposals have already been submitted across Britain, from old factories to retail sites. The shift reflects a change in demand. AI facilities don't need to be near financial hubs. They need scale and electricity, opening up opportunities in cheaper, often struggling regions.
The UK industry has been under a lot of pressure for a long time, and our site has seen a lot of that, especially recently with the decline in the petrochem industry. we've seen a lot of decline on our site. We've lost a few customers. We are attracting new customers in some of the new renewable spaces, hydrogen, sustainable aviation fuel, etc. But with our underused utilities, we also have an opportunity with having land and power available to be able to attract a data centre onto our site.
But the surge in interest is creating new bottlenecks. Grid connection requests have soared, with some projects now facing waits of more than a decade. Officials warn speculative applications are clogging the system and delaying viable developments. Land with existing power access is also commanding a premium, with prices in some areas doubling or even tripling. Despite the momentum, Britain is struggling to keep pace with European rivals, with most projects still stuck in early planning. High energy costs and regulatory hurdles are also weighing on investment decisions.
Meta Platforms plans to cut 8,000 jobs, or about 10% of its workforce, in May as it shifts focus to AI. The company informed employees in an email on Thursday, which also said around 6,000 open roles will be closed. Other tech giants, including Amazon, Snap, and Block, are also cutting jobs, with layoffs reaching 52,000 in the first quarter. Now, after the break, we'll discuss whether Iran's Hormuz outreach signals de-escalation or a new phase of pressure in a war with no clear timeline. Stay with us. Welcome back to A News. Iran is signaling cooperation with South Korea, even as tensions escalate in the Strait of Hormuz, where shipping has slowed dramatically under mounting pressure, with U.S. strategy hardening and President Donald Trump offering no timeline for an end to the conflict. The key question now is whether this is a calculated leverage or a crisis edging toward miscalculation. Joining us to discuss this is Dr. Nurhan Elbaya, professor at Istanbul Aydın University in Istanbul, Turkey. Thank you for joining us, Professor. Now, Iran is offering cooperation with South Korea while simultaneously escalating pressure in the Strait. So which signal should the international community actually take seriously?
The international community should take both signals seriously, because this strategy is not contradictory from Tehran's perspective. Iran is pursuing something we call it dual track. It means they are showing that they are open for cooperation, same as what happened with South Korea, to ensure safe navigation in Strait of Hormuz. But at the same time, they are raising the voice of military escalation to raise the cost of the confrontation or military operation. This allows Tehran actually to project that it remains open for any negotiation, but with the way that they want to keep the leverage. So here, Tehran is sending the message of Iran is willing to negotiate, Iran is open to negotiate, but from the position that they want to control the battlefield in this case. So they are sending messages to the other side of the conflict, which is in this case United States and Israel. Also, they are sending another message that the military escalation is not undermining diplomacy. Earlier today, they just sent officials to Islamabad for negotiation with the American officials as well. So it's just a strategy to raise the pressure and also to raise the cost of the conflict.
Now, if only a handful of ships are now moving through Hormuz, is the U.S. blockade failing, Or is this level of disruption exactly the objective?
This degree of disruption may actually represent the main and the intended outcomes of this blockage. It's a strategic way from United States. The objective of the maritime pressure is in the Strait of Hormuz is not necessarily to be halting all ships or halting or halt shipping or total or complete closure. Because Strait of Hormuz, I have to point this out, Strait of Hormuz carries a very heavy weight and symbolic and economic weight. So any small disruption, for example, or delay in shipping or transiting for a long time, it might create unstable or risky environment. This creation of this risky environment is for United States enough to create or to higher the cost of this conflict. I need also to point out in this point something from geopolitical perspective and from strategic perspective as well. It's very important, this creation, because this slight unstable environment or atmosphere in the Strait of Hormuz, because it will cause sustained disruption, sustained unstable feeling and or movement in shipping. So this is more effective than the total closure, because total closure will cause immediate and fast feedback or immediate and fast effect, geopolitical effect. So from United States perspective, no, this sustained effect is way better than immediate, strong, fast effect that will be caused by totally closure of Strait of Hormuz.
Mm-hmm. Now, why is Iran then choosing to engage with South Korea at this time, specifically at this moment? What does that tell us about who Tehran sees as the most influential external players right now?
Iran, very selective in choosing international community partners. That's why they went to South Korea. They might go to China, for example, India. Mainly those countries are the allies now in this tough period for Iran. That's why they are selective to choose from the pool that they have already of allies. That's why they choose South of Korea. This selection actually reflects something we call it coordinated coercive strategy. So this strategy is more than something we call it simple internal confusion. So they choose from their pool the allies that they are ready to coordinate, same as in the other side or on the other hand, United States. We saw their allies trying to support, trying to ensure safe navigation in Strait of Hormuz, for example, like United Kingdom, like Italy, for example, like France. As well, they already supported and they showed support by sending ships for mines actually in the Strait of Hormuz.
Dr. Bayer, give us a realistic outlook. Are we looking at a contained standoff or the early stages of a prolonged disruption to global energy flows?
Definitely the impact of what's happening from Iran in one side, and also the the blockade of United States, it will cause a long-term geopolitical and economical effect. Even if we assume that this conflict will end right now, the economical effect and the instability that this war will bring will remain with us minimum 2 years ahead. Also, the double signals from both sides. We are here in this case dealing with two strong countries. We are talking about United States with its strong technology, and Iran, the resistance, the patience. They saw a very high level of resistance and patience. Also, military capacity. We cannot deny the military capacity of Tehran. Tehran is on purpose showing and following the dual signal strategy because of its complexity in their regime or in their system. The power in Iranian system is divided and distributed into two important bodies and two important institutions. The first one, which is the civilians' diplomatic channels, which are the officials they are sending to Islamabad, and the Revolutionary Guard members. That's why they are always sending double signals. For Trump's administration or the American system, we got used to his way of sending messages. Always we can see this clearly in his post and Truth Social. Now he can write a post talking in a very negative way about the negotiations. After a couple of hours, he might write something very positive about Iran, and this happened earlier this week. So both sides very strong, resilience, and dealing with them is not easy. That's why we can see this clearly, and it's reflected clearly in the process of negotiation, how many rounds they went and they still will go through in the future.
Dr. Nurhan Elbaya, professor at Istanbul Aydın University, Istanbul, Turkey. Thank you very much for sharing your time and insights with us.
Thank you so much.
After the break, we'll look at the key stories shaping the region. Stay with us. Welcome back to WAY News. Turkey and the United Kingdom are making deals again. The two countries have signed a strategic partnership framework document during Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan's two-day visit. The framework aims to deepen UK-Turkey cooperation across a wide range of areas, including global security, NATO coordination, defense and industry collaboration, amongst other things. It also expanded on the joint work on climate change, energy security, and partnerships in science, technology, and innovation. For more on this, let's cross to Istanbul now and get the latest from our correspondent, Adam Mura.
The agreement was signed in London during meetings between Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan and UK Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, as part of a broader effort to formalize and expand cooperation between the two countries. Officials say the framework is designed to give greater structure to an already established relationship, setting out clearer areas of coordination across defense, counterterrorism, and regional security. In a joint statement, both sides underlined the importance of deterrence and collective defense, describing NATO as the foundation of security across the Euro-Atlantic. They also stressed the need to maintain strong transatlantic ties in order to respond effectively to emerging global challenges. The agreement places a particular focus on defense industry collaboration, with both countries looking to deepen cooperation in production, procurement, and technological development. Beyond security, the framework also highlights growing alignment on energy and climate issues, with plans to strengthen coordination on energy resilience and sustainability, as well as joint efforts in science, technology, and innovation. Economic ties are also expected to play a central role. Both sides signaled their intention to increase trade and investment, with ongoing discussions aimed at modernizing the existing free trade agreement to better reflect current economic conditions. Officials say the deal reflects a shared view in both Ankara and London that closer coordination is needed in an increasingly complex global environment where economic, security, and technological challenges are becoming more interconnected. This is Adam Aro for A News in Istanbul, Turkey.
Climate pressure in Central Asia is no longer a future threat. It's already been felt. That was the key message as the Regional Environmental Summit in Astana wrapped up. Faiza Kalamuziner has more.
The Regional Environmental Summit in Astana is wrapping up. Around 1,500 participants from Central Asia, the European Union and the Middle East took part. The message from leaders here is consistent. Climate pressure in the region is no longer a future risk, it's already being felt. Against this backdrop, regional cooperation is becoming a key focus. Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev proposed the Clean Air of Central Asia Consortium to attract green financing and cut emissions. He warned that temperatures are rising twice as fast as the global average. Nearly a third of glaciers are gone, and around 80 million hectares of land are degraded, with the lowest emitting countries facing the strongest impact. Water security is another growing concern. More than 1,300 glaciers in Tajikistan have already disappeared. However, they provide up to 60% of the region's water, according to Tajik President Emomali Rahmon. Faster melting is disrupting the water balance and raising the risk of disasters with longer and more frequent dust storms. Tajikistan is proposing a regional glacier monitoring center and steps towards a carbon market. At the same time, tensions around water use are also coming into focus. Sadr Japarov said Kyrgyzstan maintains key water infrastructure while other countries benefit, and called for compensation mechanisms, including financial support or energy supplies. All of this reflects a broader set of challenges facing the region, from water shortages and land degradation to air pollution and biodiversity loss. The pressure is building, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev said. He stressed that coordinated action is needed. He also urged that the Caspian Sea should not be used for military purposes. Separately, he warned that falling water levels are already putting its ecosystem at risk. Leaders adopted a joint declaration and agreed on an action plan through 2030. The focus now is on delivery. According to the United Nations, around 12 million people in Central Asia already face food shortages driven by climate change and water scarcity. That's why regional coordination is now seen as critical. Fariza Kalimurdzina, Almaty, A News.
Azerbaijan has joined the United Nations Convention on International Settlement Agreements. The prominent representative of the Republic of Azerbaijan to the United Nations, Tawfik Musaev, signed the United Nations Convention on International Settlements Agreements resulting from mediation, also known as the Singapore Convention on Mediation. The convention was adopted in New York in 2018. A freight train carrying 5 wagons of Russian wheat bound for Armenia has departed from the Bilayjari railway station in Azerbaijan. The total weight of the wheat shipment is 350 tons. The train will later pass through the Boyuk-Kesik railway station into Georgia and from there continue its route toward Armenia. So far, more than 24,000 tons of grain, 1,600 tons of fertilizer and 68 tons of buckwheat have been transported from Russia to Armenia via Azerbaijan. The last shipment took place on April 1st when more than 300 tons of Russian wheat were sent to Armenia through Azerbaijan's territory. In a fast-changing energy market with lots of conflicts happening on oil key routes, moving oil efficiently is becoming just as important as producing it. Industry figures and energy professionals gathered in Baku for a two-day forum on oil trading and logistics across the Caspian and Central Asia. Our correspondent, Ruka, has more.
Now we are on day 2 and the final day of the second annual Caspian and Central Asia Oil Trading and Logistics Forum here in Baku. Today's discussions are focused on how oil moves across the region and how those trade routes can become faster and more efficient, especially with how quickly the global market is changing. Over these 2 days, around 150 senior oil professionals and traders have come together. On Thursday, we heard from major players like SOCAR, along with regional transport and rail companies, all of which helped set the stage. But today, the conversations go a bit deeper into the backbone of it all: pipelines, ports, rail corridors, and the key trade routes connecting the Caspian and Central Asia. So this event is also acting as a hub connecting oil companies and traders from around the world, creating real opportunities for partnerships and future deals. So as of now, as the forum is wrapping up, it all comes down to how to take all these discussions and turn them into real practical steps for a more resilient energy network.
The day's agenda is built around several main sessions, along with a series of panel talks. The first focuses on infrastructure, looking at capacity, delays, and how key routes across the region can be improved, with experts and panelists sharing their views on the subject matter.
I talked about Trans-Caspian Corridor and the important role of the Trans-Caspian Corridor. During these recent years, especially from 2022, it became not alternative route. It became a strategical route which is stable and needs for the region, especially we know that it connects China with Europe and vice versa. So it's a strategical role of this corridor now very important.
Okay, well, I think most importantly is that people come away from the conference with a sense of the challenges for their getting together to resolve issues of logistics and the middle corridor in terms of the collaboration that's required between the business community and the government.
The second session turns to risk and finance, covering investment conditions, access to funding, as well as sanctions, insurance, and the rules shaping trade, especially on how to better manage risks across cargo, shipping, and rail.
Well, firstly, I would say that having been involved with the Caspian for 25, 30 years, one of the things that stand out is obviously the production of crude, especially from Kazakhstan, and the mere volume, and obviously in Azerbaijan. The potential has always been there for cross-Caspian movements.
But key trades, credible.
The region, like Azerbaijan and the Central Asian region, they lie in between like east and west, and even from the ancient times, this road was part of the Silkway route. And now, well, as a result of Chinese policy of one road, one belt, this region is getting more investments, more interest, more attention.
Together, the talks show a shared focus across countries like Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, as well as others in the region and the Middle East, not just moving oil, but moving it more securely.
Armenia and France are set to sign a strategic partnership agreement in early May, Armenian Deputy Foreign Minister Vahan Kostayan said ahead of French President Emmanuel Macron's visit in Yerevan on May 4th to 5th. He said the deal would be accompanied by additional agreements covering education, artificial intelligence, and military technical cooperation. Macron is also expected to hold talks with Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and attend the European Political Community Summit in the Armenian capital. With French President Emmanuel Macron set to arrive Armenia for a series of major summits in May, we'll look at what this means diplomatically as Yerevan is under pressure as more parliamentary elections approaches. See you soon. Welcome back to A News. Armenia is preparing for a high-profile diplomatic window this May, anchored by two major summits and a state visit from French President Emmanuel Macron. With parliamentary elections just weeks away, the visit is being viewed as a significant show of support for Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan as he navigates intensifying pressure from domestic and diaspora critics. Join us now to discuss this is Dr. Vakhtang Masai, political analyst, joining us from Tbilisi, Georgia. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I'd like to greet you.
Now, following years of standing invitations from Prime Minister Pashinyan, this will be the French president's first major visit to Armenia since the 2018 Francophonie Summit. How significant is the timing, particularly with Armenia's parliamentary elections approaching?
Yeah, you're you're right and correct that this visit is very significant, very important. Not only just about the nationalism, but also just regional frameworks also just matters. First of all, just it means that France also just attach great importance to the region. That's one hand. Second, of course, you are absolutely right. Like presenting steady support, preliminary parliamentary elections, just about case, which absolutely. Nicolas Pashinyan would just maybe have some problems in just about prior to these elections, because it's about immense just about pressure from the Russia side, and of course there are some just about indications of inside just about turbulences which nowadays Nicolas Pashinyan facing and his team facing up, and of course so it means that. Anyway, it indicates that Armenians just about steadily pass to the European Union integration case. As you know, just Armenia also expressed very nicely just about its willingness to increase and also just to rise up its ties with the European Union. And of course, France is like a leading nation in ages of the European Union. And of course, it's also linked about just that France and in name of the European Union, they completely support Armenia's strive to be on the European Family Member Board. And this is why this visit also just matters and why it has like more highly just about official and political level. And I guess it also just indicate European Union just support, not only just about Armenia, but also just support to how it should be just maybe it will be surprisingly, but support to even Azerbaijan, even Georgia as a maybe regional just about countries, because at time of being relationship between the three nations of the South Caucasus region are nominally very good, very harmonious. And of course, this also just indicated about this complete unifications of the region. South Caucasus is like a stable area from a European security perspective.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's widely expected that Armenia and France will sign a strategic partnership agreement covering defense, artificial intelligence, and other areas. How important could this document be, and what is likely to be entailed in this in practical terms?
Well, in practical terms, it might be just about mean that about Armenia is just performing its defense policy reforms and armed force transformations. I guess it will be just about good case that all reforms will have like more European just about experience, European standard basics, and of course it's also just mean that it could also contribute to regional security provisions. And this is, I think so, just about even just Armenians' engagement in, for example, peacekeeping operations in the age of the European Union or just maybe international organizations level. I think so that this cooperation will help also just to increase about civilian control on armed forces in the country, I mean Armenian country, because as I know just about Armenia just having never been experienced so far such kind of Armenian civilian control on the just about armed forces, and it's also just implicated that these ties mostly is not offensive but defensive just about arms or weapons development. It's also could increase just about this stability just cases in the region. Second case, it will be also has linked about with to develop our technological just about some cooperation between the France and Armenia. And I guess this Armenian just about kids like a probe, I think so that France will also just pay attention to other just about South Caucasian nations as like Azerbaijan and Georgia. Well, Georgia will have also has some client problems, but with Azerbaijan, of course, France and European Union, it's at large, has very good relations. Also, just Azerbaijan is considering the main just about gateway or just about main sources of energy reserves, transportation to the European scale, and mostly by that time when it's a problematic nowadays arise about oil geopolitics in ages of the war against Iran. Nowadays, these Caspian just about energy reserves, the resources are of course increased drastically. So I think so. It's just about European Union's probe to more integrate with South Caucasian just about countries and nations. And of course, I guess, well, Armenia, why it's first Armenia? Well, it's clear because Armenia has like a biggest diaspora in France. And of course, Macron needs, of course, to increase its popularity because quite some lately, its image also been decreased. And I guess by doing so, also Macron considering his just about personal just image to be more gradually just increased and perform more just about perfect manner. So I think so. This is what we can say about this cooperation or this strategic partnership. Signatures of the documents between Armenia and Armenia and France. Sorry.
Now, finally, I just want to add this, Doctor. Azerbaijan has often voiced dissatisfaction with French support for Armenia, particularly in the context of the former conflict over Karabakh. To what extent are those concerns still relevant today, given the traction gained by the Azerbaijan-Armenia peace process?
I think so. That also just the Nagorno-Karabakh problem is no more a real matter. So Azerbaijan just about more just how to say present itself as like a regional leader, as like just unique just countries who can defend its national interests at any level, at vital and important, or just about war and just about survival level 2. So I think so. Whilst we have no any problem with Nagorno-Karabakh, I guess this cooperation never been just about any kind of threat or just about risk to the regional security. It's my personal just opinion. Because why? Because Azerbaijan anyway is just about very highly just about Armenia's defense policy, armed force, just about credibility and combat experience is so high that it's impossible to overcome by any just about challenges and risks facing your nations. I think so that this is about good indications that European Union's interest toward Armenia will also more increase just Armenia-Azerbaijani relationship and more about stipulated to more peaceful and more goodwill development scenario.
Dr. Vakhtang Masay, political analyst, join us from Tbilisi, Georgia. Thank you very much for sharing your time and insights with us, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's all we have for now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to A News.